Good evening and thank you. First, the latest news on crime. Police have just announced that they're looking for a bank cashier from Salford. He's 5 feet tall and £10,000 short. Late last night, while Lord and Lady Hopkins were guarding their jewels, thieves broke in and watched television. One criminal who used to dress up as a woman and snatch handbags was today given 2 years in Wormwood Scrubs and 3 years in Holloway. Hijackers last night stole £20,000 worth of licorice, all sorts, from a lorry in Whitechapel. The thieves are still on the run. And a man serving 15 years for armed robbery and grievous bodily harm has just been released due to the tireless efforts of his poor little old white-haired mother. She confessed. But government statistics on crime don't prove anything, mainly because they've been stolen. What most people don't realize is that there's even more of a class system in the underworld than there is in the overworld.
I am a master criminal.
I am an average criminal. I'm the one that gets caught.
I indulge in crime because it is my way of breaking the rules and strictures of society.
I indulge in crime because of the crippling economic system we suffer from. I'm just dishonest.
I manipulate government funds, make a few trips to the continent, do some secret currency deals, and a handsome profit comes out.
I put a few false signatures on a few false checks, and a new house or car comes out. I put a dud coin in a cigarette machine and the manager comes out.
I have a villa in France and several mistresses.
I keep a blonde in a West End flat. I don't even fancy my probation officer.
I am known as the boss, the big man, and the brains.
I am known as Major Scott, Captain Fortescue, Squadron Leader Scott Fortescue, Rear Admiral Fortescue Scott, and Sir Fortescue Scott Fortescue. I am known as Handbag Harry. We all indulge in crime, but what do we get out of it?
I've got the superior feeling of a life of luxury without working for it.
I've got the satisfaction of knowing that I'm smarter than the man next to me. I've got his wallet and wristwatch.
But when it comes to crime, who are we to judge? The average law-abiding man nowadays takes illegal currency abroad and comes back with smuggled whiskey. He listens to a forbidden pirate radio station on the way home to watch Z-cars without a license, while eating a meal of illegally purchased free-range eggs and wondering how he can swindle the Inland Revenue. A survey recently showed that 94% of the public own one naffy spoon. Between them, 62% have at least one Trust House ashtray, and 17% have a notice on their lavatory wall which says, "British Railways, do not unscrew this notice." But of course, the vital thing about the successful crime is that it does have to be really well prepared, particularly if it's a robbery, or even more, if it's an ambush.
He's late. Oh, I hope nothing's happened to him.
I said you wouldn't laugh at that. Mr. Ronnie Corbett, who in his spare time is in fact a police reporter. He has to report to the police every week. Unfair, untrue. There's no doubt that the crime rate in this country is rising as authority becomes more and more all-pervasive and the other routes to adventure are closed. Many a criminal career has been started by a doctor's advice to take 1 teaspoon after every meal. But the maxim in English justice, the maxim remains that you're innocent until you're found guilty. In France, you're innocent until you're found. In America, you're innocent until the papers come out the next morning. And in Spain, you're guilty until you're proved guilty, and then you're guilty all over again. No wonder it's so important for the police to address the public on the subject of the war against crime.
The trouble with the general public is that they don't realise that the average criminal is very stupid.
I wouldn't say much for his safety on the way home tonight. Scotland Yard's new phone number is, of course, not Whitehall 1212, but the man in the cafe on the corner will take messages. Still, the police say that they're winning the fight against crime. Last year, they caught more criminals than any other organisation. The British police are wonderful. They're wonderful. The trouble is, so are British criminals. And burglars, for instance, have a very real respect for other people's property. Even so, habit still dies hard, as in the case of the ex-guardsman who turned criminal. Every time he was in an identification parade, he fainted. Still, every criminal has the opportunity to defend himself in a court of law.
Have you anything to say before I pronounce sentence?
You should never wear red with that wig, dear.
Mr. Ronnie Barker, who recently sat on a jury and squashed it flat. Knowing the law is so important. One man got off a charge of gross indecency because he had only been indecent 143 times. Though knowledge of the law is not always enough. Thieves who got away with £3,000 worth of goods from a Surrey supermarket last week were caught when they went back the next day for the stamps. In general, though, crime is getting more and more like big business, and as far as some of the Labour Party are concerned, most big business is a crime anyway. Indeed, they're saying there's only one way to make sure that crime doesn't pay, and that's to nationalise it. There's no doubt about it, the modern criminal is a pretty daunting prospect.
Ah, good evening. How do you do? How nice to see you. Well, I really would love to stay, but I'm afraid I must fly, if you'll excuse me.
What are you doing here?
Where?
Here.
Oh, here? In this room?
Yes.
Ah. Well, you don't know me, but I live over there somewhere, you see, and I was in your garden, thinking it was a lake, no, a park, and I saw this suspicious-looking character dressed like a burglar, with a white collar, a dark suit, and a bowler hat, typical burglar, recognized from a mile off, and he was prowling round what was obviously a private garden. Obviously to him, that is. And as I came strolling round the corner, and he ran off, leaving the bag behind him, you see. And so I picked the bag of candlesticks, or whatever the bag contains, up, and brought them in here, thinking you were on holiday.
What's your name?
Debbie Reynolds. Oh, what a giveaway. Peter.
Peter what?
Peter Haig. Silly name, but that's it. Ah, here's the telephone.
I'll get it. Hello? Who? Tom Benson?
Oh.
Would you describe him? Yeah, it's for you.
How dare you call me Tom Benson when you know perfectly well my name is Peter West?
Hey.
Hey. How many times have I told you not to call me at work? Do your own bloody shopping. Well, it seems that I've just prevented a burglary here, and the only danger is that there might be a fast car waiting outside, so that the burglar might make a very fast getaway if he gets caught, which is on the cards. Good night. I do hope you didn't mind my giving my wife your telephone number, in case you saw me strolling in the park and asked me in for a drink.
I'm going to call the police.
They're not in. No, I've been calling them all evening, actually, and they're not in. But if you like, I could, on my way home, pop in the local Nick and leave them a note.
You're a burglar, aren't you?
A bit.
Come on.
All right, I'll come quietly. Oh, dear. But tell me one thing. It was Debbie Reynolds who gave me away, wasn't it? Oh, what a silly thing to say.
Mr. John Cleese, who was in fact burgled recently. They didn't take anything, but they left 4 peeves on policemen. Your peeves on crime were numerous. The most horrifying suggestion came from a retired colonel in Kensington who said that with the increase in crime, it was time to arm the traffic wardens, which is the frightening thought of the week. In general, we preferred the views of Mr. Henry Vwoti of Fakenham, who says he actually heard a magistrate say to a prisoner, "You have been brought here for heavy drinking," and the prisoner reply, "Well, let's get started then." Next week, your peeves on Europe, the common market, and foreigners in general. But on crime, it's all very well to think, so live the criminal. Spare a thought, please, for the plight of the woman in the affair.
Well, Josie went to the bar. She ordered up a glass of beer. Says, "Tell me, old bartender, has my man been here? He's my man, but he won't come home. He's my man, but he won't come home." Well, I ain't gonna tell you no secrets, and I ain't gonna tell you no lie, but I saw your man about an hour ago, and I couldn't believe my eyes. He's your man, but he won't come home. He's her man, but he won't come home. So Josie went to the street with a revolver in her hand, saying, "Stand back, gents and ladies, I'm looking for my man. He's my man, but he won't come home. He's her man, but he won't come home." Well, Josie found her lover, and her revolver drew. Then Josie pulled the trigger, she shot him through and through. He was her man, but he wouldn't come home. He was her man, but he'll never come home. Now one thing hurt Miss Josie, one thing made her cry. Standing there in the jailhouse, the hearse come rolling by. He was her man, but he wouldn't come home. He was a man, but he wouldn't come home. Well, standing in the parlor by the electric fan, pleading with a baby sister, "Don't you marry that gambling man. He'll be your man, but he won't come home. He'll be your man, but he'll never come home. He'll be your man, but he won't come home."
Miss Julie Felix. Of course, the deterrent effect of punishment is often debated. How can you, in fact, calculate the number of people deterred in any given year? It hasn't been revealed yet. But many criminals explain themselves, of course, by saying that they wanted to be a prison governor and were determined to start at the bottom. There's no longer any call for them, though, to make the mail bags which have been sewn for so long by our prisoners. Japanese prisoners are now sewing them much cheaper. So instead, prisoners are in fact producing a great many of the road signs seen in this country, though often they say on them things that we wouldn't think that they'd meant at all. One prisoner escaping, one prisoner recaptured. Prisoners lying low. Inspector Barlow ahead. Beware of river police. Open prison. Train robbery planned. Train robbery completed. Unusual disguises available. Very unusual disguises. Beware of informers. Jump the roadblock. And abandon tunnel, it ends in the governor's office. We wanted to ask our young reporters what they made of crime, but we decided that in their case we should talk about degrees of naughtiness.
What's the naughtiest thing you've ever done?
Spitting. Well, I never spit before, no. I don't spit.
When did you do it?
In Loftus Road.
What?
In Loftus Road.
In Loftus Road? Why did you do it in Loftus Road?
Because Jimmy was hitting me all the time.
Have you ever hit them?
Yeah, because they're rough.
Are they? And so they're rough, are they? So you hit them?
Yeah, especially that David Murphy. David Murphy.
Especially him?
Yeah.
Why him?
Because he's the biggest.
Have you?
I get my fifth and temple.
Do you? I see. And you bang at him, do you?
Yeah.
I see. And what does he say when you do that?
Oh, he just walk away then.
He walks away.
Yeah, because he's scared.
Policemen.
Yeah, sometimes. Because when they see monsters,
What?
when they see monsters, they run.
See what?
A dinosaur.
A dinosaur. Oh, I see. Yeah, it's like one of those, was it? So they're dangerous, aren't they?
Yeah, because dinosaurs, they got two nostrils and they blow blaze out of them. They blow blaze out their nostrils. They got two nostrils for blowing blaze out.
That's what makes them dangerous, is it? I see. Oh, thank you. Anything else that's dangerous, you'd say, other than monsters?
Yes, octopuses. Because they got a lot of legs. Octopuses.
I see. They've got lots of... How many legs have they got?
I don't know.
Quite a lot, eh? I see.
Who said two? I never... Who said two? I heard...
A young genius. Television, of course, is obsessed with crime. A report this week took stock of British television in 1 year and found that 7,392 men, women and children had met with violent death on the television. 60% by gunfire, 20% by arrows, 14% by poison and 6% interviewed by Robin Day. Everyone assumes that because the villain gets caught in television dramas and so on, that'll discourage crime. But of course the reverse happens. Every week in 20 or more episodes, authority triumphs again and again and again. Little wonder that we start to feel sympathy for the poor downtrodden criminals who always lose, and hope that perhaps in real life he may get away with it once or twice. If we really want to stop crime waves, there's only one thing for it. Let the criminals win on television. 1 week of massive butchery on the television of Steed, Emma Peel, Barlow, Dixon, Drake, Lockhart and the Saint, not to mention Batman and Robin, all hideously done to death before our very eyes, and the criminals wouldn't have a hope. They'd be facing a nation in arms until the crime wave had sunk to an undetectable ripple. But until that solution, of course, it's going to need skilled detection by top detectives to combat crime.
Afternoon, Sergeant. I'm cooking of the yard. Good afternoon, sir. Sergeant Ibsen. Chief Constable asked me to stay here and give you any assistance I could, sir.
Thank you, Sergeant. There's the body. Sheet over it, I see.
Yes, sir, we...
Quiet, please, Sergeant, I'm thinking. So he was sleeping out here on the floor when he was killed. Now...
No, sir, no. Shh.
Now, why should he be sleeping out here on the floor if this is his flat? Has the bed been slept in?
Yes, sir.
So if he spent the night out here, his bed was obviously slept in by the murderer. So the murderer was a friend. Now, why would the friend want to spend the night in the bed? Because he required the softness of the bed, because he probably suffered from a painful condition of the back, such as lumbago. Now, notice this picture. It is askew. Now, how has that been moved, Sergeant? Not with a foot. A hand, I think we can assume, thus. See, however, it would seem ridiculous to stand on the sofa, so we can assume that the murderer was 8 foot tall. Now, why, you say, was he leaning backwards in such a silly fashion? I'll tell you why. He was looking at something and wearing a guard's officer's cap with a low peak, thus. So every time he looked at something, he had to lean back, you see, like that. Hence the lumbago. Now, what was he looking at? The body. Why from here? Because he was long-sighted. Hence these objects he knocked over.
No, sir, no.
Sergeant, please. No red herrings. Now, you've probably noticed a slight scratch on the lintel over the door. The sort of scratch made by the cap badge of an 8 foot tall, backward-leaning guards officer. Now, the angle at which you have to lean back in order to see under the peak of a guards officer's cap is 38 degrees. Now, an 8 foot man leaning back at an angle of 38 degrees would only be 5 foot 10 tall, therefore not tall enough to hit the lintel of the door unless he was hopping or leaping. Why was he hopping? Because he had a wooden leg.
A wooden leg, sir?
Now, where does the woman fit in?
The woman?
Cherchez la femme, Ibsen, cherchez la femme. The woman is young, pretty, upper class, probably wearing a white fur coat. But notice the ashtray. On none of these cigarettes is there a trace of lipstick. Therefore, no woman. Therefore, the guards officer was wearing the white fur coat. Why was he wearing the white fur coat? To keep his back warm because of the lumbago, Sergeant. Now, how did this, I'm not going too fast, am I?
No, sir, no.
How did this poor man meet his end?
He was stabbed, sir.
Stabbed in the back?
Yes, sir, twice.
Wounds that far apart?
Yes, sir. Look.
One on the head and one somewhere else, eh? Now, Sergeant, you probably noticed the carpet. It has virtually no pile, and yet it is a new carpet. 3 weeks old, I should say. Now, why should a virtually new carpet have no pile? Because it has been methodically and evenly removed. What has the removal of the pile of a new carpet got to do with wounds that far apart? The answer? A goat.
A goat?
Let us reconstruct the crime. Let us reconstruct the crime. There is a knock on the door. The murdered man answers it. It is an old friend, an 8 foot tall, backward-leaning guards officer with a wooden leg and a goat. He comes in, hops in, complains of lumbago, and goes to bed for the night. The victim decides to sleep here. At dead of night, out hops our long-sighted hopping friend, knocks over these objects here, rests against the wall, thus moving the picture to focus on the victim. In so doing, notices a goat removing the pile from the carpet. He charges across the room, picks up the goat, and stabs him in the back with it. He sits down on the sofa there and smokes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 27 cigarettes. Any man, Sergeant, who smokes 27 cigarettes would have a very nasty cough. There's your man.
Elementary, my dear Watson, and that's crime, really. And the trouble is, of course, that crime is romanticized, and it always has been. Everyone knows why Robin Hood only robbed the rich. The poor didn't have enough money. Good night.